Hello, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't know who I am, my name is Shook. I make videos for NBA. I make videos for NFL. We got NBA coming up soon, so can't wait for that. About 2 weeks or so. And yeah, all these videos they get posted right here on this subreddit where I make, you can find my post with my username Shook. I make updates throughout the day with all the news that comes out and what that changes for me. And you can ask me questions about the slate. I will always respond to you. And this is my Twitter. If you ever need to get a hold of me privately, you can message me on Twitter. That would be the best way to reach me. All right, let's go over my lineups from tonight. We'll go over that. We will go over the afternoon slate. We will go over the main slate. As you guys know, I show you my results every single slate. I also do it with basketball as well. Just so you can gauge how I'm doing. So, this was the showdown slate. I played the same cash lineup in GPPs. I had 30 seconds. I wasn't going to play GPPs at all, but there was 30 seconds before lock. I saw that this had overlay, so I just clicked enter, and it worked out. So my cash lineup was Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, Brendan Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Luke Shoemaker. So Shoemaker at $200 just made things work. I'm more than not expected a zero there, but it just made things work, right? It just allowed me to fit CMC captain. It allowed me to play Brock with Devo, with Kittle, with Brendan Ayuk, right? And in a cash game setting, you want to maximize your floor, and you also want to consider ceiling, but not as much, right? So that worked out. Cashed in GPPs, cashed in tournaments. My cash core for this slate and GPP core were the same. It was CMC, Brock Purdy, and Deebo Samuel. Worked out massively there. And then my afternoon slate went very well in cash games as well. I did not play GPPs for this slate. My afternoon cash core was Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, Marquise Brown, and I believe one of Jalen Hurts or Mahomes, or it was Brees Hall. I forget. I think it was one of the quarterbacks. Just get to one of Hurts or Mahomes. I ended up going with Hurts. It worked out massively. Easily cashed with 182. And then main slate went great as well. My main slate core for this slate was just a nuke for cash. I went with Montgomery as a core play. I went with Josh Reynolds as a core play. I went with Laporta as a core play. So it was just, and Jamar Chase, it was just insane. Like I said, Monty went for 23. Jamar Chase broke the slate. Josh Reynolds did very good. Laporta caught 2 touchdowns. It was just phenomenal core for cash this week. And you can see who I rounded out my lineup with, and then I'll show my GPP lineup for the main slate. Did not cash in GPPs because I faded as Shane. And I had some other duds, obviously Justin Jefferson, but my GPP core today was Patrick Mahomes, David Montgomery. Listen, I was eating the chalk on David Montgomery. We weren't going to get a better running back play probably for the rest of the year that David Montgomery was at this price point, in a really good spot against Carolina. I thought Detroit was probably going to run the ball a ton. They ran it a ton. They threw it a lot too, but yeah, it's just a really, really good spot for Montgomery. And then Rashee Rice was a core play for me, and Travis Kelce was core. So I think I had 5 in the core: Mahomes, Montgomery, Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce. Oh, and Justin Jefferson. He was the bust in the core. All right, let's go over the showdown slate for Packers at Raiders on the 9th. So let's go over it. So Aaron Jones is the big question for this slate. Obviously, he's coming back from a hamstring injury. Hopefully, we get news if he's going to be on a snap count or not, because it's going to be extremely, extremely important news. Now, I do think that he is going to play more. I don't think he'll be full go, but I think he will play more from last than he did last week. I believe he left the game last week too. I'm not entirely sure. But he only played 20 of the 57 snaps. Listen, they need Aaron Jones back. I know hamstring injuries are tough, 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 tough. But A.J. Dillon just ain't it. They're not going to win with A.J. Dillon out there. So, but also, like I said, hamstring injuries. I don't know if you want to rush back Aaron Jones for normal workload, right? If it's going to be a split, then I have interest in Jones. I think A.J. Dillon, even if it's a split, is firmly in play at that price point, even though he's been god awful. Now, it's tough because if no one's going to play Aaron Jones tomorrow because they're scared of a limit, like say we don't get news that he's not going to be on a limit, if everyone's just not going to play him because then I like him for tournaments. Now, if we get news that he's going to be on a limit, then it's kind of hard for me to pay that price point for him. If we get news that he's full go, then I really, really like Aaron Jones. If he is full go, involved in the passing game, expectation of touches, if he is full go, is around 20-ish or so. Would really like Aaron Jones. I think Josh Jacobs, I do prefer to Aaron Jones regardless as of right now. But it's going to be interesting to see what the limitations, or if there will be any limitations for Aaron Jones as of right now. So it's kind of just a wait and see approach. I'll update the Reddit page and I'll have a link to that in the comments of this video and what that changes for me whenever we do get that news on Aaron Jones for tomorrow. And then you have Jordan Love at 9.8K. I definitely do prefer Jordan Love to Garoppolo, and he just he adds a little bit with his legs, so I always just prefer that floor. I think he also has a higher ceiling than Garoppolo. And then we'll have to monitor the news with Adams on the other side. That could hurt Garoppolo a little bit. So right now I do prefer Love to Garoppolo, but I think they're both good plays. I always like quarterbacks on showdown slates. You guys know this. Just every point's going to matter, especially in showdown slates when things can change on a dime, and they just provide a nice floor. And if they have that ceiling game where they throw for like 3 touchdowns, you're fist bumping, right? And then you have Love possibly adding points on the ground as well. So definitely do prefer Love to Garoppolo. And then we have to talk about the wide receivers. So Watson was on a limit last week. It was his first week back, I believe, from week. It was his first week back. He only played 26 of the 57 snaps. Now, I do think he's going to get an increase in snaps. I'm not entirely sure how much of an increase. If I had to guess, probably about half, maybe more. I think at least a half. I think he's going to at least play around half the game. I think there's a good chance he will play more, though. So I do like Watson at 7.8. Super high ceiling. If he is full go and not on any limitations, then I really like him, and he would be too cheap in my opinion. He's their clear wide receiver 1. I don't care what anyone says. So that's another thing. We're going to have to keep an eye on news there, and I'll update the Reddit post. So if Watson's full go, I really like him. I think he's too cheap. If he's going to play about 55, 60% of the snaps, then I still like him quite a bit. Still has a huge ceiling. So I am a fan of Watson tomorrow. I think he's going to get his snaps increased. I think he'll at least play about half the snaps. So definitely do like Watson. Now, Dubs, on the other hand, at 8,200, taking a look at he is not going to leave the game. So if you're scared of Watson being limited even more, I think you can look to Dubs. I think right now, personally, for me, I do prefer Watson to Dubs. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Dubs. But I do like both the Green Bay wide receivers quite a bit. I think I slightly give the edge to Watson as of right now. You have Jaden Reed at 6.2K. I really, really like Musgrave and Reed. Sole reason for the being that they're in this price range where I don't think a lot of people are going to be able to get to them. I think a lot of people are going to want to play Love. I think a lot of people are going to want to play Josh Jacobs. I think a lot of people are going to want to play Devontae Adams, which I don't blame them. They're 3 of the best plays in the slate, right? But what that's going to do is that's going to be leaning people towards more stars and scrubs types builds, right? It's not going to leave them enough room in salary to play guys like Jaden Reed, to play guys like Musgrave, to play guys like Jacoby Myers, right? So I'm a fan of Jaden Reed and Musgrave in tournaments tomorrow. I think you can definitely go to these guys in cash if you wanted to. More so Musgrave, but fine with either. But I do like them for tournaments. I think they're going to be under owned, especially Musgrave. I really like Musgrave for tournaments tomorrow. He left the game early last week, and you just saw Degura get targeted a ton. You saw Tucker Kraft get some targets. So after he left the game, you saw 2 targets for Kraft. You saw 4 for Degura. That's 6 right there. Musgrave had a target. So definitely do like Musgrave quite a bit at that price point. I think it's too cheap. I do. And if not a lot of people are going to be on him, I'll like him even more. Now Watson, if he's going to play more, could hurt a little bit, but I'm not really too worried about that. So definitely do like Musgrave tomorrow. AJ Dillon, it's going to be up to you on what you think the limit, or if there is a limit for Aaron Jones. If Jones is full go, then I'm not going to play Dillon at 4.6K. If we get news, then it's going to be like an even split or something like that. Then I do like Dillon at 4.6. If you think it's going to be like 60-40-ish, then kind of back to like normal or a little more, then obviously not as much interest there. Defenses, you guys know my takes there. Not they're just fine. They always go over owned most of the time. Kickers, I think, are always good values. And a lot of people don't understand this, but kickers do correlate with their quarterbacks very well. More often than not, every time, if your quarterback is scoring points, your kicker is going to be scoring points with them. So that's a concept that a lot of people do not understand. So I always like kickers on slates. You guys know I was very high on kickers last season. I like them quite a bit this season once again. As far as Degura goes, hard for me to go there with Musgrave back, but let's take a look at week 3 with Musgrave healthy. So Musgrave played 68 of these 79 snaps, and you saw Degura only play 17 and only was in there on 4 pass plays. He run blocked 11 of those, so he's not going to be in there a lot. He's going to block most of the time. He's coming off a 4-target game for 7.4 fantasy points at 1.8K. What that tells me is he's going to be overowned, and I want absolutely nothing to do with it. So I don't like Degura tomorrow at all. Let's move back to week 4 and let's talk about the fringe players. So I do have interest in Wicks at $200. Now, if Watson does get a snap increase, it's going to hurt Wicks. It's going to hurt Torrey even more. So, got to keep an eye on that. But I still think Wicks is going to be out there. I still think he's going to be running routes. So, $200, I think he is firmly in play as a tournament play. We'll talk about a value on the Raiders side, who I think is probably my favorite value on the slate as of right now, but I think Wicks is perfectly fine. Torrey, just a large field tournament dart. I think he's overpriced. I'd rather just go down to Wicks. All right, let's go over the Raiders. So we got to monitor the news. Excuse me. With Davante Adams, if I had to guess, he is going to be playing. I don't think there will be any limitations on him, but we will see. So if Davante Adams does play, I think he's probably the best play on the slate. We do get Jimmy Garoppolo back, so that's obviously a boost. Let's take a look at the games with Garoppolo. 20 targets in week 3, 8 targets in week 2, 9 targets in week 1. I mean, I don't think I have to tell you guys how great of a play Davante Adams is. His floor, his ceiling is extremely high. Now, I do believe the Packers I think they're getting Jair back. So, I mean, Adams is matchup proof, but if you want to go into that narrative and like fade Adams and play, I would 100% play Jacoby if you're fading Adams, but I think Jacoby himself is a great play regardless. But love Adams. I think Jacobs, I prefer him to Aaron Jones. Everyone was absolutely worried because of his production this week. I am not, or the first 3 weeks, I am not worried about that at all. Finally came out with AOC at quarterback. Now, AOC is not going to be at quarterback this week, and AOC likes to throw a ton of dump offs and low A-dot passes, which is probably why he saw 11 targets in week 4. But I think the expectation of touches that we can expect for Josh Jacobs, and they're playing at home, I always like playing running backs when they are at home, is around 20, 15 to 16 touches on the ground, 4 to 5 targets, I think is a good expectation for him. So high floor, high ceiling. Really, really a fan of Jacobs. I think Garoppolo is a good play. Like I said, I do prefer Love to him. And I really like Jacoby Myers at this price point. It's just too cheap. I don't understand this price point at 7K. Taking a look at his snaps, he is going to play the entire game. It's just absurd. I think it's a misprice here. I think he has a high floor, has a ceiling as he showed in week 1. So I really like Myers. I think that's a misprice. Kickers are good. Raiders defense is fine. Taking a look at the rest of the running backs for the Raiders, we saw Amir Abdullah play 15 snaps, was in on 15 pass plays, and we saw, is that it? We saw Zamir White only play 7 snaps. So if you were to take a dart on one for tournaments, I would prefer Abdullah. Just a large field tournament play, but in play. And then we have to talk about Hunter Renfrow, who I think is a solid value as well at 2.2K. Where is he? Week 4, he played about half the game. Week 3, he played... Was he out 1 week? No, he played about half the game. Week 2, he played... I know there was a game with, I believe Myers out. Played a little bit over half the game in week 1 or 2, and then in week 1 he played, don't know if something happened there, but barely played. So you're getting a wide receiver at, where is he? What's his price? At 2.2K, that's going to run a decent amount of routes, be in for about half the snaps. I think he's solid value. And then we have to talk about Austin Hooper. So Austin Hooper right now is out snapping Meyer. And Meyer is kind of in there, as you see here, he played 37 of the 73 snaps, was in there to run block on 18 of those. And then you have Austin Hooper, who played 37 of the snaps and was run blocking on 7 of those. So, where's Meyer? Here he is. So at their price points, I don't think it makes sense personally for me. I do prefer Austin Hooper to Meyer. If he's going to run more routes, I think Hooper's just too cheap, right? What he does is he allows you to pay up for everyone, like Adams, like Jacobs, like Aaron Jones, right? The Watsons of the world, Dobbs. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. And you have to be careful here if you are playing guys like Hooper, just not to make sure your lineups aren't duped, right? Because if you're playing Hooper, what that's going to do, it's going to put you on a lot of the same players that the field is going to be playing. So if you're playing Hooper, you're kind of on more of a stars and scrubs lineup. So you're probably going to be playing like Adams, Love, maybe even like a Jacobs. So you just have to be really, really careful there what you do with your lineup if you are playing Austin Hooper, because it's going to put you on a lot of the top highest owned guys on the slate, because it's going to put you on a stars and scrub type build. So just be careful there. I think Hooper is a good value. I think he's one of my favorite values on the slate, but just be a little bit careful there. And Meyer, like I said, I think I'd rather just play Hooper. And then taking a look at the rest of the snaps for this team, you saw Trey Tucker play 18 snaps. You saw Carter barely play, and then that is it. So they're all just darts for me. No lanes. I think Hooper. I'd rather just go to Hooper. And then monitor the Adams news. If he's out, then we'll have more interesting guys like Wilkerson, Renfrow, Jacoby Myers will be the one. I would love him. Tucker, etc. So keep an eye on that news. I will make updates as always. I hope you guys had a good night, and I will talk to y'all tomorrow.